Outpost Helios. 9 floated in the cold dark of space like a silent metal giant. It hung in orbit around a dead star, far from Earth, far from the Council's shining cities. The outpost was old but strong, built by human hands to last. It was a place for miners, traders, and families who had left Earth long ago to make a life among the stars. Jack Ronan walked the steel halls of the station, his heavy boots echoing softly. He had walked these halls for 15 years, ever since he left the Galactic Marines. He used to fight wars for the Council. Now, he watched over families who had no one else to protect them. It was quieter work, but it mattered to him more than anything. He paused at the wide glass window of the community sector. Inside, children were playing. Human children. Boys and girls, some born on Earth, some born out here under the cold metal sky of Helios 9. They laughed and ran between benches and plant beds. They didn't know how dangerous the galaxy really was. Jack smiled a little. He liked it that way. Innocence was worth protecting. A small girl with dark hair and bright eyes waved at him. Jack nodded back. He didn't smile often, but the children always found a way to pull out of him. He thought of his own daughter, lost long ago on another station in another war. He shook the memory away. Jack turned when his comm device buzzed on his wrist. "Go ahead," he said. It was Lena Carter, one of his security officers. "Chief, you'd better come to Docking Bay 4, she said, her voice tight. "You're going to want to see this yourself." Jack frowned. "On my way." He made his way down 2 levels, passing traders unloading crates and workers heading to the reactor core. Helios 9 never slept. Life moved on, even out here on the edge of nowhere. Lena was waiting for him at the docking bay door. She didn't look happy. Jack trusted her. She was sharp, a good fighter, and loyal. If she said something felt wrong, it usually was, "What is it?" Jack asked. Lena pulled up the station log on her wrist pad. "Look at this," she said, showing him the log of recent ship entries. A small cargo vessel had docked last night. Its clearance came from the Galactic Council itself. High-level clearance. No inspection required. Jack raised an eyebrow. "That's Council level. What did they bring in?" Lena shook her head. "That's the thing. They didn't unload anything. Docked for 3 hours, then left. No records, no cargo, no crew listed." Jack stared at the log. The Council didn't send ships without a reason, and they never moved in the dark without telling someone. "We checked the cams?" Jack asked. "Already did," Lena said. "Come see for yourself." They went to the security room. Lena pulled up the footage from Docking Bay 4. Jack leaned in, watching the black and white video. The ship docked quietly. 4 figures in dark suits stepped off. Their faces were covered by masks. They moved quickly, heading toward the residential sectors. Lena paused the feed. "That's not cargo they were after," she whispered. Jack felt a cold chill run through him. "Pull the cams from the residential sectors. I want to see where they went." Lena worked fast. They watched as the masked figures entered the family quarters. The footage ended there. The next camera showed nothing. The feed was cut. Jack stood up straight. His jaw tightened. They cut the cams. "Looks that way," Lena said. Just then, Jack's comm buzzed again. This time, it was a civilian channel. "Security, please my son. He's missing. I can't find him anywhere. Please help us." Jack closed his eyes for a moment. He already knew what had happened. "I'm on my way," he said. He turned to Lena. "Get a team together. Quietly. No one leaves this station until we find that boy." Lena nodded and rushed out the door. Jack stayed for a moment longer. He looked at the frozen image on the screen, the masked figures walking like they owned the place. They moved with purpose. They weren't here to steal supplies. They came for something else. Something worse. Jack felt the weight of it settle on his chest. He had seen war. He had seen death. But this was different. He looked back toward the window where the children had been playing. He clenched his fists. "Not again," he whispered. He turned and walked out of the room, ready to find whoever had dared to break the one rule the galaxy swore to protect. The first rule of the galaxy: never harm the children. But someone had broken it, and Jack Ronan was going to find out who. The station's night cycle had started. Lights dimmed in the hallways. Families settled in their homes. Workers clocked out after long shifts. Helios 9 looked peaceful on the outside, but under the surface, fear had started to spread. Jack walked quickly to the family quarters. Lena and 2 other officers, Briggs and Rayan, were already there. They stood with a woman who looked pale and shaken. Her name was Marla Kearns. Jack knew her. She worked in the hydroponics bay. Her little boy, Sam, was just 6 years old. Marla's hands were shaking as she spoke. He was here, just here, playing with the others. I turned away for only a minute. When I looked back, he was gone. Jack crouched down, looking into her eyes. Did you see anyone? Anyone strange? Marla shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. No, nothing. He was just gone. Jack stood up and turned to Lena. Check every inch of this sector. Every air vent, every storage room. If those masked figures took him, they couldn't have gotten far. Lena nodded. On it, Briggs and Rayan moved with her, starting a sweep of the area. Jack stayed behind with Marla. He put a hand on her shoulder. We're going to find him. I promise. Marla nodded weakly, but didn't speak. She looked like she was breaking apart inside. Jack's comm buzzed again. This time it was from Earth Command. He stepped away to answer. The screen lit up with the face of Admiral Pierce, a tired man Jack had known for years. Jack, Pierce said, his voice low. We received your report. Stand down. Jack's jaw tightened. Sir, we have a child missing. Possibly more. I have security footage showing Council agents moving through this station without clearance. They cut our cams. This is a breach of... I said stand down. Pierce cut him off. The Council has full authority on this matter. Do not interfere. Jack stared at the screen in disbelief. You're telling me to do nothing? The Council is handling it, Pierce said. Do not make this worse, Jack. You know how fragile our position is. We can't afford to challenge them. Jack felt anger rise in his chest. He had heard these words before, stand down. Let the Council handle it. He had obeyed once. It had cost him his family. No, Jack said firmly. I can't do that. Pierce leaned in, looking tired and frustrated. Listen to me. If you cross the Council, you put Earth at risk. You put all of us at risk. I'm giving you a direct order. Stand down, Ronan. That's final. The screen went black. Jack stood there for a moment, staring at his own reflection on the dark screen. His heart pounded. His fists clenched. Lena's voice came through his comm. Jack, you need to come to Sector 12. We found something. Jack turned and moved fast, pushing through the halls towards Sector 12. Lena met him at the door. What is it? Jack asked. She looked uneasy. Another child is missing. A girl named Elia Horn, 7 years old. Parents didn't even notice at first. She was playing with the others. Same as Sam. Jack felt a cold wave wash over him. 2 missing now. 2 families broken. We found this near where she was last seen, Lena added, holding up a small black device. It looked like a signal jammer, standard tech used to block cameras and sensors. Jack took it from her, turning it over in his hand. Council military grade. They're not hiding it very well, Jack muttered. Lena looked around and leaned in closer. What do we do now? You heard what Earth Command said. Jack nodded slowly. I heard. He looked down the long corridor, the walls lined with pipes and lights. He thought of the children, of the families who trusted him to keep them safe. He thought of the Council's mask, rules and peace on the surface, but lies and control underneath. He had followed orders once before. He had stayed silent when he should have fought back. He wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. Jack turned back to Lena. His voice was steady and cold. We do what we have to do, he said. Give me the full station logs. I want every ship, every crew, every movement in the last week. No one leaves this station until we find out who's behind this. Lena nodded. Understood. Jack's comm buzzed again, but this time it wasn't from Earth. A private channel lit up on his screen. The ID showed a strange code, one Jack hadn't seen in years. It was from an old contact, someone who didn't work for the Council, someone who knew how to find answers others wanted to hide. Jack answered. The voice on the other end was low and rough. Took you long enough, Ronan, the voice said. Looks like you've got a Council problem. Jack leaned against the wall, keeping his voice quiet. Tell me something I don't know. I have what you need, the voice said. Proof. Council orders. Classified level. You want it. Jack didn't hesitate. Where? There was a pause. Then the voice replied. Meet me in Cargo Bay 6. 30 minutes. Come alone. The line went dead. Jack stood there, his mind racing. If what the voice claimed was true, then the council had planned this. And if they had, it meant the threat was bigger than just Helios 9. It meant Earth was in danger. All of humanity might be. He looked down the long, empty hallway. His fists clenched again. No matter what Earth Command said, he wasn't done. Not yet. Cargo Bay 6 was on the lowest level of Helios 9. Few people came down here. The air smelled of oil and metal. Old storage crates stood in silent rows, covered in dust. The lights flickered weakly overhead, casting long shadows. Jack moved through the bay slowly. His hand rested on the grip of his sidearm. He had learned long ago to trust his instincts. The voice on the comm had sounded familiar, but trust was dangerous in times like these. He stopped near a stack of crates and waited. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, thin, wearing an old spacer jacket. The man pulled off his hood, revealing a face Jack hadn't seen in 10 years. Kel Vox, Jack said, his voice low. Kel was a former intelligence officer, a ghost in the system. He had vanished after a mission gone wrong, blamed for leaking council data. Some called him a traitor. Jack had once called him a friend. Kel gave a small grin. Still alive, I see. Barely, Jack replied. You said you had something. Kel nodded and reached into his coat. He pulled out a small data chip. It's all here, Kel said. Intercepted council orders. High-level clearance. Stamped by the inner circle itself. Jack took the chip, his heart beating faster. What do they say? Kelesh green faded. His face grew hard. The council has labeled human children as a genetic risk to galactic order. They're calling it preventive containment. That's their excuse for taking them. They claim they're protecting the future. Jack felt like the floor had dropped beneath him. How many? He asked quietly. Kel looked away for a moment, then back at Jack. They started with the outer colonies. Small stations. Quiet places no one watches. Your outpost is next on the list. They've already marked it. Jack tightened his grip on the chip. His stomach turned. Why the children? Kel's face darkened. They believe human children carry a unique genetic trait. Something that makes humans harder to control. Something that could make humans dangerous. Jack shook his head. That's a lie. We've been part of the council for 100 years. Quel Lundcloser. You, I both know the council never trusted humans. We're too independent. Too unpredictable. They let us in, but they've been watching us ever since. Jack felt anger rise in his chest. His people had worked for peace. They had obeyed the council's laws. They had followed every rule. And now this. What's the real plan? Jack asked. Kel lowered his voice to a whisper. They're taking the children to council research stations. They're calling it testing. But once they have them, no one ever sees them again. Jack's jaw clenched. And Earth? Do they know? Kel shook his head. Earth's leadership is too scared to fight. They think silence will keep them safe. But they're wrong. Once the council finishes with the outposts, they'll come for Earth itself. Jack stared at the data chip. Proof of the council's betrayal. Proof that no one was safe. You need to make this public, Kel said. Jack looked up. And then what? The council will call it lies. Earth will fold under pressure. Nothing will change. Unless you fight back, Kel replied. You have a station full of people who trust you. Families who believe in you. Start here. Stop them here. Make the council fear you. Jack knew what that meant. Breaking the law. Defying the council. Risking va. He looked down at the cold floor, his mind racing. Could they really fight the council? Could they win? Kel stepped back into the shadows. Whatever you do, Ronan, do it fast. They're already here. More ships are coming. And then he was gone. Jack stood alone in the empty cargo bay, holding the chip tightly in his hand. He knew what he had to do. Jack returned to the security center. Lena, Briggs, and Rayan were waiting. Jack didn't waste time. I have proof, he told them. Council orders. They're taking our children for experiments. More ships are coming. Lena looked stunned. What do we do? Jack looked at each of them, one by one. We fight. Briggs frowned. Sir, Earth Command said. Jack cut him off. I don't care what Earth Command said. The council broke the first rule. They came after our children. We stand here, or we lose everything. The room went quiet. No one argued. Jack stepped forward, voice firm. Lock down the station. No ships in or out. Secure every family. Hide the children. We prepare for a fight. Lena nodded first. Then Briggs. Then Rayan. They were ready. Jack knew the cost would be high. But this wasn't just about Helios 9. This was about every human child in the galaxy. This was about showing the Council they could not take what they wanted without a fight. He looked out the window toward the black sea of stars. They wanted a war, he whispered. We'll give them one. The next morning, Helios 9 was no longer just a space station. It was a fortress. Jack stood in the command center, staring at the station map on the screen. Every hallway, every bay, every exit sealed. No ship could dock or leave without his approval now. He had ordered the lockdown before sunrise. No one had argued. By now, the entire station knew something was wrong. Lena stood beside him, checking security feeds. All airlocks are sealed, she reported. Civilian sectors are secure. Families are moving to the lower levels, as you ordered. Jack nodded. Good. Keep it that way. He tapped his comm. Briggs. Rayan. Report. Briggs answered first. Barricades are set on levels 4 and 5. We've posted guards at every major junction. Rayan came next. We've moved the children to the hydroponic storage tunnels. Hidden, locked down, guarded. No one gets in without your code. Jack felt a small wave of relief. It wasn't much, but it was something. Stay sharp, he ordered. We don't know when they'll move again. He ended the call and turned to Lena. Have you seen anything on long-range scans? Lena nodded slowly. One ship, just outside sensor range. Same signature as the one from last night. Jack leaned in closer. Council ship. No doubt, Lena replied. Jack rubbed his jaw, thinking. They're waiting, watching us lock down, trying to decide if we're worth the trouble. Lena lowered her voice. What happens when they send more? Jack looked around the room. His people were tired, tense, but ready. They weren't soldiers. Most were miners, engineers, traders. But they had families. They had something to fight for. They'll come, Jack said quietly. And when they do, we'll make them regret it. Lena didn't look convinced. And Earth. Jack sighed. Earth won't come. We're on our own. Word spread fast across Helios 9. Jack didn't hide the truth anymore. He gathered the families in the central plaza. Hundreds of people stood in silence as Jack told them what he had learned. He told them about the Council's secret orders, about the children taken from other outposts, about the danger heading their way. Mothers held their children tighter. Fathers clenched their fists. Fear filled the air. We have two choices, Jack told them. We can stand down, obey, and let them take our children, or we can fight. A long silence followed. People looked at each other, searching for courage. It was Marla Kearns, the mother of the first missing child, who spoke first. No one takes my son, she said, voice shaking but strong. Not again. Others followed. No more hiding. We fight. We protect our own. Jack raised his hand to calm the crowd. This won't be easy. We're outnumbered, outgunned. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. But if you stay, you fight for every child on this station. No one moved. Jack nodded slowly, pride filling his chest. Then we stand together. Later that day, Jack stood in the lower tunnels, checking the hidden shelter. Dozens of children sat quietly, surrounded by crates and supplies. Some played with old toys. Some held each other. Some looked up at Jack with wide, scared eyes. Lena walked up behind him. They're scared, she whispered. Jack nodded. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Lena frowned. What about you? You scared? Jack looked at the children again. His voice was low, steady, terrified. He knew what was coming. The Council wouldn't back down. They couldn't afford to look weak. When they returned, they would bring more soldiers. Bigger ships. Stronger weapons. Jack had seen how the Council crushed enemies before. He had helped them do it once. Now he was on the other side. He turned to Lena. Get the teams ready. Double the guards on the children. Make sure every exit is sealed tight. Lena nodded and moved to carry out his orders. Jack stayed a moment longer, watching the children. He knew many of their names. He knew their parents. He had watched them grow up on this station. He made a silent promise to them. You will live. I will protect you, no matter what it costs me. Hours later, alarms sounded across the station. Lena's voice came over the comm. Chief, they're here. Jack moved quickly to the command center. The screen showed 2 Council warships approaching Helios 9. Sleek, black, and armed with heavy cannons. A call came through. Jack answered. Counselor Drex Varen appeared on the screen. His pale blue skin and black eyes looked cold as ice. He wore the silver robes of the Council Inner Circle. Jack Ronan, Drex said, voice smooth like a knife. Stand down. Release the children to us. Open your gates. No one needs to get hurt. Jack stood tall, staring straight at him. You broke the rule, Drex. You came after our children. Drex gave a small smile. Human children pose a risk to galactic peace. We are protecting the future. Jack's jaw tightened. You're lying. You're covering your fear. You fear us. Drex leaned closer to the screen. You have no army. No fleet. This is your last chance. Jack spoke clearly, his voice like steel. You want them? Come and take them. He cut the call. Lena looked at him. They'll attack. Jack nodded. Let them try. He turned to the team. Positions. We hold the line. Every man and woman grabbed their weapons and moved out. The station lights turned red. Barricades locked into place. Emergency shields powered up. Helios 9 was ready. Jack stood at the front of the defense line, gripping his rifle. He knew this was the moment. There was no turning back. The station lights flashed red. The walls shook with the hum of rising shields. Every hallway echoed with the sounds of footsteps, weapons locking, and doors sealing. Helios 9 had become a fortress, but Jack knew it was only a matter of time before the walls were tested. The Council warships hung outside the station, silent and deadly. Their cannons powered up, glowing like red eyes in the dark. Lena stood at the main defense control panel. She turned to Jack. They're not waiting anymore. Jack nodded. He stood by the thick metal barricade at Docking Bay 4, the same place where the masked figures had entered just days ago. Now, the real force had arrived. Briggs and Rain stood with him, along with 24 others. Men and women with faces hard as stone. They weren't soldiers, but they were ready to fight. Jack had made sure of that. Over the station speakers, Jack spoke to every man, woman, and child. This is it. They are here. Remember why you fight. Not for power. Not for pride. You fight for your families. For the children. We stand here together. We stand here as one. The station shook again. Alarms blared. They're docking, Lena shouted. Jack took a deep breath. Hold your ground, he ordered. The docking bay doors trembled as the Council's boarding clamps locked on. With a hiss of steam and the grinding of metal, the enemy forced their way in. The first Council soldiers marched in, tall, armored, and silent. Their black helmets hid their faces. Their rifles glowed with charged plasma. Jack raised his weapon. Stand your ground, he shouted. The first shots rang out, filling the docking bay with light and sound. Council soldiers fired without mercy, forcing Jack's people to take cover behind crates and barricades. Briggs returned fire, dropping 2 soldiers. Rain followed, hitting another in the chest. But the Council kept pushing forward, their numbers growing. Jack moved quickly, signaling Lena to close the secondary gates. Thick steel walls slid down behind the defenders, cutting off the Council's advance for a moment. Fall back to level 5. Jack ordered. Move! His people scrambled back, sealing the doors behind them. Jack stayed at the rear, covering the retreat. Plasma bolts burned into the walls around him, but he didn't flinch. When the last of his team was through, he sealed the gate and locked it tight. On level 5, families huddled together in secured rooms. The children were hidden deeper in the tunnels. Jack knew they had little time. Lena met him at the junction. They're cutting through the gates. We have minutes, maybe less. Jack nodded. Prepare the final line. They set up their last defense in the narrow hallway leading to the lower levels. There was no room for the Council to spread out here. It was the only advantage Jack had left. The gates exploded behind them. Council soldiers poured in again. Jack raised his rifle. For the children, he shouted. His team answered with a wave of fire. Plasma bolts lit up the dark corridor. Council soldiers fell, but more kept coming. Briggs took a hit to the shoulder, falling back with a grunt. Rayan pulled him to safety. Jack moved forward, firing shot after shot. The hallway filled with smoke and heat. The air smelled of burning metal. And then, through the smoke, Counselor Drex Varen stepped forward. He wore no armor, no helmet, only his silver robe and coal-black eyes. The soldiers stopped firing. Silence fell. Drex raised his hand. Enough. Jack lowered his rifle slowly, breathing hard. Drex stepped closer. Jack Ronan, you made your point. But this ends now. Surrender the children. Stand down. I will spare your people. Jack took a step forward. You lied to us. You broke the first rule. You attacked the innocent. Drex's face stayed calm. They are not innocent. They are a risk. A threat. This is for the good of the galaxy. Jack's jaw tightened. The galaxy can burn before I give you one more child. Drex's eyes narrowed. Then you will die here. He moved fast, pulling a small blade from his robe. Jack dropped his rifle and rushed forward. The two men clashed in the middle of the hallway. Drex slashed at Jack, cutting his arm. Jack grabbed Drex by the throat, slamming him against the wall. Drex fought back, driving his blade toward Jack's side. Jack blocked it with his forearm, pain burning through him. He grabbed Drex's wrist, twisting it until the blade clattered to the floor. With a roar, Jack drove his fist into Drex's face again and again, until the counselor fell to the ground, blood on his pale skin. Jack stood over him, breathing hard. This is our home, Jack said coldly. You're not taking anything. Drex coughed, struggling to stand. You will lose. Ronan, you can't stop us all. Jack leaned in close. Maybe not, but you're not taking my family. He grabbed Drex's collar, dragging him toward the airlock. Lena watched in shock. Jack! Jack didn't stop. He opened the outer door, locking Drex in the airlock chamber. Drex pounded on the glass. Ronan, this isn't over. Jack stared through the glass, face hard as stone. For you it is. He hit the eject button. The airlock opened with a hiss. Drex was sucked into the cold black of space. Silent. Weightless. Gone. Jack turned to his team. The council soldiers had frozen, unsure of what to do without their leader. Get out. Jack ordered them. Go back to your ships. Tell your council we are not afraid. The soldiers backed away slowly, returning to the docking bay. Lena stepped beside Jack. They're leaving. Jack let out a long breath, his body shaking from the fight. It's not over, he whispered. Not yet. But they had won for now. The council soldiers left as quietly as they had come. Their warships slowly pulled away from Helios. 9. Engines burning in the distance. But Jack knew this wasn't victory. It was only a pause. He had sent their leader floating into deep space. There would be consequences. He stood in the ruined hallway, blood on his hands, his heart still racing. His people stood behind him, silent and waiting. No one spoke for a long time. Lena stepped forward first. They're retreating for now. Jack nodded, breathing heavy. We held them off, but they'll be back. He looked at the wounded around him. Briggs sat on the floor, holding his bleeding arm. Rayan helped patch him up. Several others leaned against the walls, bruised and burned. None had died, but all had risked their lives. Jack turned to Lena. We need to check the children. She nodded, and they both moved fast through the lower tunnels. Jack's boots echoed in the narrow halls. His chest felt heavy. What if they had been found? What if someone had slipped through? When they reached the storage shelter, the door was still locked. Jack entered his code, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the children huddled close together. Some were crying. Some held each other in silence. Marla Kearns stood near the front, her face pale and worried. When she saw Jack, her knees almost gave out. Sam, she called. A small boy pushed through the crowd. He ran to her, and she felt her knees, grabbing him tight, crying into his hair. Jack felt the tightness in his chest loosen a little. Lena touched his arm. They're all here. Jack looked around the crowded space. Boys and girls of all ages stared up at him. Some scared, some confused, some trying to understand what had just happened. He took a deep breath and knelt down in front of them. You're safe now, he told them quietly. No one is going to take you. One small girl stood and walked toward him. Her name was Elia, the second child who had gone missing. Jack remembered her face from the report. She stood in front of him, holding something small in her hand. Jack reached out and took it. It was a torn piece of cloth, dark gray with a council mark burned into it. He looked at Lena. They left something behind. Later, Jack gathered his team in the command center. The data chip Kel had given him still sat on the table. The council's orders were right there. Proof of their betrayal. Jack looked around the room. They'll be back. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But they'll come. Briggs stood, his arm now bandaged. We can't stop them forever. Jack nodded. No, but we can show them that we're not afraid. We can show them that Helios 9 stand its ground. Lena leaned forward. What about Earth? Should we send the data? Jack thought for a moment. He knew Earth's leaders would panic. They might try to bury the truth. They might fear losing their place in the council. But Jack also knew the people deserved to know. He nodded. Send it. Send it to every outpost, every colony, every ship. Let the galaxy see what the council really is. Lena got to work. She broadcasted the data across the human network. It would take hours, maybe days, but the truth would spread. People would know. The council's lies were no longer safe. That night, Jack walked alone through the station. He stopped at the large window overlooking the stars. Helios 9 floated in the dark, silent once again. He thought of Drex Varen, of the fight, of the blood on his hands. He thought of the children. They had survived today, but Jack knew the fight was not over. It had only just begun. He closed his eyes, remembering the face of his daughter, the one he couldn't save years ago. Not again, he promised himself. Jack turned and walked away from the window. He had work to do. He had a war to prepare for. Days passed. Helios 9 remained sealed. No ships came. No messages from Earth. No word from the council. The station hung in deep space like a wound in the dark, holding its breath, waiting for the next strike. Jack spent every hour preparing. He knew this quiet would not last. The council didn't forget Defiance. They would come again, with more ships, more soldiers. Maybe they wouldn't send a message next time. Maybe they would open fire from orbit. He stood in the command center, watching the sensors. The space around the station was empty, for now. Lena entered the room quietly. No new movement, she reported. Nothing on long-range scans. Jack didn't turn. They're not done with us. No, Lena agreed. But neither are we. She placed a small data tablet on the table. The message, it's spreading faster than we thought. Jack looked at her, surprised. Where? Lena smiled a little. Everywhere. Earth. Mars. The Belt colonies. Even outposts beyond council space. People are talking. They've seen the orders. They know what the council did. Jack leaned on the table, staring at the map of human space. Any word from Earth's leadership? Lena shook her head. They're silent. Jack wasn't surprised. Earth would wait, weighing their options, hoping the storm would pass. But it wouldn't. The storm was already here. Later that night, Jack visited the lower tunnels again. The children were still there, safe but restless. Families had started setting up temporary shelters in the tunnels, afraid to move back to the upper levels. Marla Kern stood by the door when Jack arrived. Chief, she said softly, you should talk to them. Jack stepped inside. Dozens of children looked up at him. Some recognized him from the fight. Others watched him like he was the only thing standing between them and the dark. Jack sat down on the floor. The children gathered closer. I know you're scared, he said quietly. I know you don't understand why this is happening. You didn't do anything wrong. None of you did. He looked around the room, meeting every pair of young eyes. They tried to take you, but they failed. Because you're not weak. You're not broken. You are the future. A small boy raised his hand. Will they come back? Jack nodded slowly. Yes, they will. The children shifted nervously. Some grabbed each other's hands. But next time, Jack said firmly, we'll be stronger. We'll be ready. A day later, an old cargo ship approached the station. It carried no council mark. Its engines were damaged. It drifted slowly toward Helios 9. Lena ran the scans. It's from the outer colonies. No weapons. Looks like civilians. Jack frowned. Put them through. The screen lit up with the face of an older man, tired and worn. His voice cracked as he spoke. We heard your message. We have families. Children. We don't trust the council anymore. We need shelter. Jack looked at Lena. She gave a small nod. Jack answered the man. Docking Bay 2 is open. Welcome to Helios 9. More ships followed. Small freighters, family transports, old mining rigs. They carried people, men, women, and children, looking for safety. Word had spread far and wide. Helios, 9 had stood against the council and survived. Now it had become something new, a beacon. Weeks later, Jack stood on the observation deck again. The docking bays were full. The station was alive with new faces, new families, new hope. But Jack knew the risk. The council would not let this stand. Helios, 9 had become a symbol of resistance. The first outpost to say no. The first to fight back. Lena stood beside him, watching the busy docks. "They'll come again," she said softly. Jack nodded. "Yes. And when they do, they'll find more than just us waiting." He turned, looking down the long hallway filled with families, engineers, miners, and fighters. "They'll find all of us." That night, Jack sent one final message across the stars. He stood in front of the station's old comm unit, looking straight into the camera. To the Galactic Council, he began, voice steady and clear. "You broke the first rule. You came for our children. You thought we would bow. You thought we would break." He paused, leaning closer to the mic. "You were wrong." He leaned back, staring into the lens. "We are human. We stand together. We stand free. You wanted to control us. You wanted to silence us. But now you have given us something else." He smiled for the first time in a long time. "You have given us a reason to fight." He ended the transmission. Jack stood alone in the dark room for a long time. He knew the cost had only begun, but the first line had been drawn. Helios, 9 had taken its place in history, not as a station to be forgotten, but as the place where the galaxy learned that humanity would never again stand down. Not for fear, not for power, not for anyone. Jack looked out into the stars, knowing the war ahead would be long. But it was a fight worth taking, and it had already begun.